Hi, here we are.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, everybody. This is our, so the task force has three, is that right, Angie? Three committees? And this is the Economic Development and Digital Inclusion Committee. And why don't we have the members of the task force that are on this committee quickly reintroduce themselves. Micah, let's go to you first.
Micah Myers, City of St. Cloud, part of the governor's task force, and I chose this session because this is the session that the subgroup that I work with, along with Bernadine and Dale Cook, we're looking excited to hear the discussion from the group on this. So.
Thanks, Micah. Hey, Dale, good to see you. Glad you were able to make it on this morning. You're such a busy guy. You didn't get a chance to introduce yourself earlier. Please do that now.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, everyone, but great to see you. Dale Cook, founder, CEO of a company called Learn to Live, and on the subcommittee with Bernadine and Micah, and happy to be here.
Thanks, Dale. Jason.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jason Holliday, Planning Director for the Fond du Lac Reservation. We're still completing our build out of a fiber to the home network on the reservation. I was one of the original crew, I guess, kind of helping come up with the development of that project, as well as getting all the grant funding, which included two border-to-border grants.
Thank you, Jason. We've met Angie and Diane. Thank you guys for joining us to our meeting this morning. And the other task force members have had a chance to introduce. Let's just do a quick introductions from the folks that haven't had a chance to introduce themselves yet, so we settle in. And I'll just call on people because of the awkwardness of Zoom. So Molly, I'll go to you first.
Sure, thanks, Bernadine. My name's Molly Malone. I work for the Center for Rural Affairs, and I'm based out of my home in Murray County. I work on any policy that affects rural communities, so kind of work is all over the place. And I am going to pop off at about 10:30, but that's not because I hate the group. That's just I have another call.
Sure, of course. Thanks, Molly. And as we do these introductions, just say a quick word about why you joined this morning. Molly, why did you join the meeting this morning?
My county is one of the worst in the state for, based on the broadband reports. And Rock County is right around the corner. So it's kind of like, what are we doing that Rock County's #1 and we're number 69 out of 87? Why? How is that possible?
Thanks, Molly. Let's hop over to you, Sarah. Sarah Johnson Malcho.
I'm Sarah Malco, and I'm a part of the LaSure County Broadband group. We've been working for over 3 years, and I joined this call because I'm a small business entrepreneur and also interested in equity and inclusion.
Thanks, Sarah. It's great to have you on the team from LaSure County. Jackie Nagel, let's go to you next.
Hi there. So I'm Jackie Nagel. I'm the IS Director for Couchiching County, and I'm also a member of the Couchiching Technology Initiative. I joined this group because I feel that broadband is going to be essential for economic development here in our county. We are so remote, and we are kind of in the same boat as Molly mentioned. We're pretty low on the list for ratings for broadband access. So hoping to hear from others on ways that we can harness broadband, bring it into the county, and use it for economic development purposes.
Thanks, Jackie. It's great to have you on the call. I've enjoyed getting to know Jackie. She's been a real fire plug up there in Couchiching County with their Couch Tech Initiative. Thanks for joining, Jackie. Jennifer, let's go to you, Jennifer Frost.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jen Frost. I chose the group because I had been working in economic development in Swift County. We're also fortunate to be a border-to-border grant recipient, so we've got great access in our county. And I just made a transition to the Office of Broadband Development at DEED with the state, so I'm really excited to be here and just excited to talk more about inclusion and broadband's impact on economic development.
Congrats, Jenny. Great to see you.
Thanks.
Jenny Palmer.
I'm Jenny Palmer. I'm the City Administrator, EDA Director in the City of Winthrop, and I'm also on the RS Fiber Cooperative Board. And I joined this room because Mary assigned me. I didn't get a chance to pick, but it sounds like a good group, and we're always looking for ways to improve economic development through broadband.
And Jenny's been a big supporter and help with the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition. Thank you for that, Jenny. I'm looking, Betsy Olivanti, why don't you check in with us?
Hi, I have to keep my video off most of the time because my internet isn't all that great here. So, so that's what I'm doing. But Betsy Olivanti, I'm a small business development consultant in the Iron Range area, the Quad Cities, Virginia, Evelyn, Gilbert, Mount Iron, in St. Louis County, have been working on broadband projects to benefit small businesses since 2016, I think. So we have a couple of projects that went in this year, or one that went in for a state border-to-border broadband grant based on the newest large community feasibility study we're doing. So it's exciting to come to this conference, get re-energized, and then learn what everybody else is doing and how they've utilized it. The presentation this morning was phenomenal to give me new fodder to go back and, you know, keep going. So
Do you hear that,
that's what I
Callie? You
hear.
inspired Betsy, and she's always
Yeah.
inspiring me, so good job. I'm going to keep us going because we want to have time for introductions, for conversation. Nate, why don't you just say hello and say again your role at the coalition?
Yeah, thank you, Bernadine. My name is Nathan Zacharias, and I am the lobbyist for the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition. I'm also the project manager for the Minnesota Speed Test Initiative. I know I've pestered a few of you about that over the last couple months, but I was also assigned to this group, but this is really great for me because often I get bogged down at the Capitol of the nuts and bolts of legislation, and it's good to hear from real people in real places about what broadband is like in the real world. So these sort of conversations inform the work that I do, and I'm very thankful for it.
Thanks, Nathan. Allie McInerney.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Allie McInerney. I work with Bernadine at the Blanda Foundation in the Communications Department. I am helping Mary out by recording this session, but I'm also looking forward to hearing the discussion as I have the privilege of volunteering with our local economic development corp on both employer and employee recruitment initiatives. So as we all know, broadband is a huge component of that. So I look forward to the conversation. Thanks, Bernadine.
Thanks, Allie. Perry, thanks for your comments earlier. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Perry Mulcrone. I'm a business relationship director at Scott County. I've been with the county for 17 years, and we did a fiber ring back in 2007. And I joined this group because I want to learn more about, we've been using fiber as an economic development incentive. So I'd like to learn what other people are doing, and I'd also like to learn more about digital inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. And Joanne Johnson. Hey, old friend. Introduce yourself, please.
Hey, Bernadette, how you doing?
Good to see you.
I'm Joanne Johnson. I'm the executive director of the Minnesota Public Broadband Alliance. You've got a couple of our members in this room, Perry and Micah. You heard from another member, Mark Burkholz, earlier. So what we do is we make each other stronger by working together, and that all got instigated basically by Scott County early on. So I've been in economic development since I worked for Congressman Colin Peterson as an economic development officer in the district, and been interested ever since. So it's a big part of what we do and what we lobby for.
Thank you, Joanne. And Bill Coleman, I think you're the rep, Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Coleman, and I think everyone here. So thanks for joining. And my background is economic development and with digital equity. I'm on the board of PCs for People, and so I have a keen interest in that.
Bill's been our rock in planning the, no pun intended, the conference, and big part of bringing all the content here. And I pitched his happy hour this morning because I know it's going to be a boatload of fun. He's been writing limericks for us, so everyone get their sharpen their pencils. All right.
We have a limerick contest.
Yes.
So,
on
best virtual background.
There we go.
So I expect to see some creative activity.
So good. So you folks, we've got Micah, task force members here, Micah, Jason, me, and Dale, and Angie, and listening in. We heard a very impassioned thing from Steve about the report is not enough. But we are in the process of writing a report to the legislature and the governor with recommendations about what Minnesota needs to do to meet our broadband goals. So this is your chance here in the room to have at it with the task force members, with our ears listening. What do you want to tell the task force about what Minnesota should be doing to meet our broadband goals? So I'm going to kind of throw it open to the group to give input. And, you know, and also I guess task force members should feel free to ask questions too, but I really would like a chance for our non-task force members to ask the task force questions or provide them with input and thoughts.
Well, I guess what I want to say, you know, we're like I talked about earlier here in Rock County, we have this amazing broadband. And what I would like to offer is to call on us anytime to tell this story about how helpful it is, especially during COVID. And I think every county, every place in the United States should be able to have what we have. It is just invaluable, especially right now. So I would like to offer our story anytime, if whatever we can do to help sell this to the legislature, we're certainly happy to do so.
Bernadine or task force, does this report sort of tell the tale of two counties right next to each other with Rockford and the one that's 69th? Do you kind of highlight a narrative around that in this report?
You know, every year I've been on the task force for a couple of iterations, and we get it that it's not about data, it's about stories, right? And that's how you move people and understand them, the opportunity to tell the story of two counties or two cities or two townships. We're trying hard to do that. And we got a lot of good material. We just heard some from today. So yeah, but I think the task force bell's been run that it needs to have stories.
Because having the economic development, like they said, people moving into town, towns expanding, property taxes increasing because, you know, access to broadband. We're hearing it up here too, that people want to buy land and build houses in rural communities right now, but they're looking at, like, say, the East Range where there's land available, but no broadband. And so they're going, okay, thank you very much. We'll call up Rockford. You know, lovely, moving on. You know? So we're missing out on some of that economic development expansion and those businesses and families moving up here because of that. So that was something I guess I just wanted to know.
Bernadine, and that's, you know, and Bernie confirmed, one of the things we're looking at in the past, if you look at some of the reports that talked about the have-nots, one of the things we're looking at as we tell our narrative to the, you know, the governor is looking at the successes, because the legislature want to see that they're not throwing, you know, their money away, that there are success stories. And we're seeing that. It'd be kind of an interesting twist to put like the difference with two neighboring counties as to how one, you know, can show how they're advancing in economic and bringing business to their communities, which increases tax base. That's one of the things you always got to look at too. One of the other things we've looked at and from the task force is looking at not only, you know, the challenge every year you have to go to legislation to get this funding approved. We're looking at making it part of the base budget and some of the things we're looking at doing. Also looking at other items such as, you know, you got the Universal Service Fund that, you know, you look at that one and that's a very competitive place to try and get your foot in the door to get money there. But looking at not only from a state, but looking at from a federal standpoint, looking at a funding mechanism that helps this, because this is important. And if you want to look at a silver lining from COVID, it showed the glaring deficiencies that we have with broadband. Even in, like Perry can tell you, Perry is a metro county or close to the metro, and they have a lot of holes there. And that demographic seems to get forgotten because we're focusing and looking strictly at rural, but we still have coverages within areas that are somewhat served. One of the other things we're looking at changes is the census block. If one household in the census block gets it, you exclude a lot of folks there. So what you need to look at is going down to the address level. So these are a lot of things that we were addressing and looking at, including in our report.
So at the expense of just quick moving on, the you're including then that household level speed test stuff that you've been working on in the state, is that feeding into this report?
Nathan, you want to comment about where the status of where you're at on the speed test and how that might deal with state maps? Go ahead.
Yeah, so right now we've been working on the speed test for about 2 months. We launched on August 3rd, and we currently have about 22,000 speed tests. I apologize, I didn't hear the first part of the question. I can elaborate further, but I don't want to speak too long without addressing directly. Could you repeat part of that?
Yeah, sure, Nathan. Betsy was asking about whether and how the speed test data might inform recommendations of the broadband task force that's being written now between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, so one thing I'll say is we don't want to draw conclusions too early from our data. The important part of the speed test is that it is a statistically valid sample. So we're doing it similar to the way you would do polling. So if we don't have an accurate count of speed tests in an area as a percentage of that population, we can't make any large conclusions about it. But I will say that the information right now is public. So the map that we're making with all the speed test dots on it is public facing. So you can see it in real time. You can see the results coming in. The obvious patterns you think are going to be there are already there. The towns and cities have service. Rural areas outside of there don't. And then we're seeing places in urban centers where there's likely affordability issues too, when places that are served. Certainly we hope that the map informs the task force, but it is also, like I said, it's backing up a lot of the anecdotes we've heard over the years about what service looks like. We're going to be writing reports in December and January, and we'll have a full report out. That's our goal right now, if we have enough participation. So we're looking towards the end of the calendar year to be to have a final report, or at least preliminary, I suppose.
Thanks, Nathan. I'll just give a shout out that Nathan is leading an office hours session later in October as part of the conference. And he's invited as part of that, the state broadband director from the state of Washington and some other folks who are implementing this map as well. So it'll be a chance to hear more about the state broadband speed test and how to be part of it and what it's going to mean. So thanks for that as well, Nathan.
Thank you.
Nathan, are you addressing in the speed test that it just shows what is provisioned and not what's capable at those locations?
So the speed test is the actual received speed as experienced by the user at the end of the line. So you're right that wouldn't show what is available necessarily. However, when we have enough participation, and that was I cannot emphasize that anymore. We need full participation, because we might see a town that's served, but a bunch of dots on our map that say that person is experiencing slower speeds. That's because either they probably can't afford it, or they've chosen not to purchase that product, or they might have an error with some of the router or the computer that they're using. But if we see a lot of dots on the map that indicate service in a town, we can draw the conclusion that there is likely service in this area.
Yeah, I just want to, so you get good data.
Absolutely, that's the most important part.
That's what puts the counties 1 and 1 at 69 is some of that, data that comes in that's not entirely accurate. What I've found is people that have been without broadband, they buy the biggest package they can possibly get. People that have good broadband tend to not buy the biggest package they can possibly get. And most of those people that have had broadband and good solid broadband for a while are located in cities and towns across the state. So just want to make that point.
So in terms of the recommendations that this subcommittee are bringing forward, Micah did a nice job earlier of summarizing them. We are going to recommend, of course, ongoing funding for the state broadband grant program. And importantly, as Micah pointed out, that be made part of the base budget. Also, we're planning on recommending that the task force fund the Office of Broadband Development for an operations budget that will allow it to not only administer the grant program, but also meet its other statutory obligations about to promoting broadband adoption. So it'd have a program budget to actually work on adoption and use efforts. Those are our two main recommendations coming up, and I know we're almost out of time, but if anybody, yes, Sarah, let's hear from you.
Just a few comments about, I'm wondering if part of that programming thing, we could take advantage of some of the synergy of the COVID situation and do a little bit more explaining to the general public what broadband means. When we were recruiting members for our task force, the key players that you would think would be most motivated to join it were most of them completely oblivious what broadband meant. Things like chamber leaders, business people in the community who have great broadband, because they're not motivated to seemingly help others or understand the issue. So it seems to me like now with COVID, we have some synergy, and maybe we could build the message about what it is, what it does, what we're doing.
Thank you for that great input. Amen. Other thoughts?
I have a question. So it's hard for me to comment on the task force because I'm not. So I'm just going to ask a really probably dumb question. Has the task force looked at encouraging every community to leverage fiber builds to their libraries and to their schools so they can use E-rate? I mean, in some of these communities that don't have a presence, that's how we got our ring. I mean, we didn't do it by E-rate, but we did by MMSB funds for emergency management. If there's any community that hasn't done that, I would highly encourage to do that, because that gets that pipe in there first that you can start leveraging and building off of with a partner like RVIG or others in a community. So I don't know if the task force.
Angie, do you want to comment on that? Because I know that's something your office works on with communities. Not so much the task force as your office. Go ahead.
Perry, could you repeat that? I was taking a note here and I heard part of what you said, but I'm not sure what the question was.
No problem. I was just wondering if we've encouraged every community to at least build leverage fiber builds to their schools and to their libraries, because every community has schools and libraries, and that can E-rate dollars can be leveraged for that, so that the cost of the build is actually, as you know, substantially reduced. And I started with saying it's probably a very dumb question because it's an obvious thing, but I did find out that there are some that haven't done that, and it's like a no-brainer, because then that can become your backbone to start leveraging economic development and obviously digital inclusion, and start building with a partner off of those builds. So have we overtly recommended that to people who might not know?
We haven't overtly recommended that, but certainly that is part of our conversations with communities as we're talking about potential projects that folks would be working on, to look at all the different possibilities in terms of funding mechanisms and resources to help them expand access in their communities. But I hear you that perhaps we make a more overt effort at that. And I thank you for that recommendation.
Thank you. And then one last thing is that when we were looking at possibly using CARES funding for low income housing units and complexes, we found that those housing units and complexes in our cities were served by, like, say, Comcast, who has the Internet Essentials. But anyway, we found that a lot of people don't know about that, and that's not being advertised.
Yeah, thank you. That's an area of improvement, and I think the task force will take note of that. That encourage providers to utilize their subsidy programs better, do a better job of promoting and reducing the barriers to participating in that. Because I think that is true, that they're underutilized provider programs. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody. We're about to go back to the big group and do a quick report out. And again, thanks for joining our group here. We're gonna then have a keynote with Roberto after our breakout. So we'll see you in the main room. Thanks.